God bless, God bless, God bless. God bless, God bless, God bless. Good to see everybody. Good to see everybody. Welcome, 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 welcome. If y'all see me with my shades on, I'm not trying to be cool. I got a swollen eye, so I am protecting my eye. So Pastor's not trying to be cool. My eye is swollen. My eye is swollen. My eye is swollen. Well, thank you, Victoria. I appreciate you. Let me know I look cool. I'm looking at the Instagram. I'm looking at the Instagram, and I think we are live on both vehicles, both mediums. Like I said, I'm not trying to be cool, nothing like that. My right eye is swollen, so I gotta protect it right now. So good evening. Oh, Shay is on the line. God bless you, everybody who's joining us for this mentorship moment. I appreciate everybody who's viewing, who's watching. I appreciate you. Once again, I'm not trying to look cool. I'm not wearing shades. Don't think I went Hollywood on y'all. I did not go Hollywood on y'all. Good evening. I see. Okay. People aren't signing on. Oh, it's like Gwen on Instagram. Hey, everybody. All right. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. Hopefully, before I get started, just want to know, can everyone hear me? Can everyone hear me? I want to know, can Instagram, could you let me know if you can hear me? Facebook, I think Facebook can hear me, but I want to make sure everybody can hear me before I get started. Amen. Amen. All right. I ain't going Hollywood. My eye is swollen. My eye is swollen, so I'm protecting my eye. All right. Now, without further ado, let's get into this. I'm excited about tonight. I'm excited about what I've been sharing, what I have been sharing, which I believe it's vitally important. I believe it's important to us who are considered believers. And I think it's important to regular folks to understand the difference between the mindset of a manager, a manipulator, or a mentor. And so I want to unveil these mindsets progressively over a couple of lessons. I've already talked about how, number one, managing is something everyone does. We all do it. We all manage people. We might not have that as a title in terms of professionally, but in your daily life, you are managing someone. You are managing your children. You are managing your husband, your wife. You are managing, whether you're in a church setting, you are managing someone. And in order for you to do that effectively and efficiently, and what I believe is integrity, is for you to know the difference in the ideologies of all three, right? There's a difference between a manager, there's a difference between a mentor, and there's a difference between a manipulator. And all are separated in the heart and the intentions of why they do what they do, or not just why they do what they do, how they Release means to do what they're going to do. What means do they go about doing what they do? And that's what separates the three thought process. So tonight we're going to continuing talking about the mentality of, or the difference in mentality between a manager, a manipulator, and then finally what I believe is the mentorship manager mindset, because all of these are management styles you will come across. You will come across the manager manipulator. You will come across the manager. You will come across the mentor manager, right? And I'm trying to get everybody into this space to become more of a mentor manager, because I really believe that's the people who really leave the deposit and the effect on people the way that God would have us to do it, or a good-hearted way. All right. So the mentor, well, let's start with a recap of managing. So managing is trying to get somebody to do a task. Really, in a nutshell, watch one. If you're managing somebody, you're trying to get them to do a task, or to execute an objective, to execute a goal, hopefully effectively, hopefully efficiently. But that's what you're trying to do, right? You're trying to get them to manage or to get to that goal. So everybody does it, right? You're trying to get to, whether it's a small goal, getting your children to clean up their room, getting your husband to cut the grass, whatever the case may be, everybody's managing someone. Now, in the three mindsets, the manager mindset is just task driven, right? They only care about the completion of the task. They don't necessarily care about the person who is completing the task. Okay. That's the manager mindset, right? All right. The manipulator mindset cares about using the person to complete the task for their benefit. So there's a difference between the manipulator and the manager. It's not that the manager doesn't necessarily care about the person. The manager is often not conscious, aloof, has no concept of understanding that there's a person behind the work that's going on. That's something that's not necessarily a priority to them. So a lot of people can fall into this category without proper perspective. You can fall into that category because you forget not only that there's a person behind this, that every task that gets assigned, it's not just about work, it's about understanding the where. And the better you get, and the better you're being managed, because as we talk about this, you'll see people who managed you, you'll see people in terms of how you manage them. Because what happens so often is when you're just a manager, that's when you can burn people out. You can burn people out. Some of you may feel burnt out on your jobs right now. And it's not that that person has an ill intent. Not all those type of people are malicious. Not all those type of people have bad hearts. What a manager goal is just the task. They just thinking about the task, how to get XYZ done. They're not necessarily conscious. Now, a lot of these people have, in a lot of cases, have very high IQs, but very low EQs, right? They're not emotionally connected to their teams. They're task driven. They're often very matter of fact. From a personality perspective, they're very direct from a person. They're not as personable all the time. Sometimes they could be, but most of the time, these type of personalities, they're very matter of fact, very A-type personality, that they only care about the goal, right? So these are the type of people that you might tell them, hey, my mama died. My mama died. Oh, I'm so sorry that your mama died. So that means you're not going to come in on Thursday? They'll say something like that. Or how many bereavement days are you going to take? Well, how many bereavement days you gonna take? Right, 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 right. And so, we're gonna get to the opposite. We're gonna get to the opposite, right? How many bereavement days you gonna take, right? So these managers are about that, and you have to understand that that's what they're about. Now, the mentor manager, right? The mentor manager, right? And Gwen, I see your comment in terms of you care too much. Now, here's what you got to see in that, right? So there's the manager. Let me do this first and describe kind of the personality types of the three we're talking about tonight. We talked about the manager mindset. Now, when we talk about the manipulator mindset, the manipulator thinks about you, but only in context of them, right? They think about you only in context of them. How can your help support them? How can they use you to get what they want, what they need? How to use you to advance them? Okay. That's the manipulator manager, right? They are self-driven first. Now, the manager is task-driven first, right? Not necessarily they're task, but the manipulator is self-driven. And these people will hold credit, they'll hold accolades. These group of people won't be apt to celebrate people, won't be apt to promote people, because that means they will eventually usurp them or achieve more than they achieve. And you have these type of people in business, you have these type of people in ministry, that these people sometimes you got to, pastoring for 30 years, but have no people they sent out, right? No people that have other ministries that they pastor now. You'll see that all of their concept of the ministry in terms of people is what you can do for me. So that's the manipulator manager, right? And you don't just have that in management, you have that as people, that there are people who in situations, they manage things from a manipulative place. They have a manipulative mindset. And that can exist in marriages where there's one person in the marriage that's constantly driving the other person to do X, to do Y, to do Z. But it's really not about that person that they're doing it for. They're doing it because they have some selfish ambition. They have some desire. They have some want that they're asking the person to complete, to do, right? Now, Gwen, you have what I call the mentor manager. Now, the mentor manager cares about the task. They're balanced. They care about the task, but they also care about the person doing the task. And to your point, what do we do in terms of caring too much? Well, the mentor manager is balanced, meaning the mentor manager understands that there's a task that has to be done. The mentor manager understands that we have a goal that we have. But the mentor manager also understands, hey, Denise, good to see you, understands that there's a person attached to that request, and I got to balance the two. And what happens is the balance is understanding that there is a task to be done, but I can't be so person driven that it neglects the task. And I can't be so task driven, right, that I forget about the person. Right. So in those moments where you feel like you care about the person more, it is often when you allow the person to be imbalanced in the care department, that they're neglecting the task. Okay. Right. They're neglecting, like you are allowing the task to fall to the wayside, or you're allowing the task to be unequally distributed, right? Which is inefficient. You're allowing, meaning somebody on the team got more work than somebody else on the team. Or what you do is you remove work from that person and you put it on you. Right? Not understanding, if you are doing that, you are you are allowing wear to happen in the team because you're not making an adequate consideration that you are a part of the team just as much as somebody else. All right. You are a part of the team just as much as somebody else. So if I give unequally, if I give myself unbalanced work, I'm actually managing myself to a poor degree. And I'm not really keeping in mind my wear, and I'm mismanaging this whole entity because I cannot be balanced. Now, balance is you have to practice and work at being balanced, right? Because you, and this is a part of anybody, whatever you're in that other people are in, you got to remember you are a part of the team. You are not all of the team. You are part of the team. Now, if anybody is on your team and they're not pulling their own weight, why do they need to be on your team? Why do they need? Because at some point, I am not doing my job in terms of having a responsibility for what God has put to me. I'm not doing an adequate job because I'm allowing, as the manager, I'm allowing an imbalance. I'm allowing the imbalance. So I'm not being a good service, or I'm doing a service to my team because I'm allowing the imbalance, right? Right. So for everybody, right, we all got to be better at understanding what our capacities are. What our capacities are. Now, does everybody know what their breaking point is? Does everybody know what their breaking point is? Okay, let me talk about signs of a breaking point. Okay, signs of a breaking point. You can reach a breaking point in a relationship. You can reach a breaking point at a job. You can reach a breaking point in ministry or doing good works. You can reach a breaking point with ideas or ideals or ways of doing things, processes, procedures. All those things have capacity. Okay. Now let's talk about reaching breaking points, right? Okay. All right. Yes, Denise said you can reach a breaking point as a parent. Everything that involves your energy can reach a breaking point. Everything you give your energy to, because you are a finite resource. You are not an infinite resources, meaning you have a capacity. Even in your home, when you look on certain pipes, there are numbers on that pipe. The numbers on that pipe often represent what pressure that pipe can hold. As long as it doesn't reach that max capacity, it doesn't matter. That pipe will start to work. But the moment that gets to a breaking point, it will expand, it will crack. It will crack. It won't always readily expose or explode. It will crack. And for some of us, our personalities generally are like tea kettles. And what I mean by like tea kettles is some of our personalities are that you are angry about something, right? Like a tea kettle. There's fire underneath that tea kettle. There's nothing going on the outside at first. But inside, that water's boiling. Inside, that water's boiling. And at a point, there is steam that's going to come out of that teapot. And you know I've reached a breaking point. But we can't wait to the explosion. We got to see the cracks. Okay. So let's talk about some cracks of a capacity or breaking point, right? Okay. There are different cracks, right? Cracks are spiritual. Cracks are mental and emotional. Cracks are physical. Cracks are relational. And cracks are financial. Okay. You will see cracks in one of the areas of your life if you know you're close to a breaking point, right? The clear sign first often is physical cracks. Okay. Weight gain or weight loss. Weight gain or weight loss could be a sign of a capacity crack. Hair loss could be a sign of a capacity crack, especially ladies who are watching me. If you are in a situation or you're going underneath some stress, and that's why they call it stress. Stress is a sign of cracks, right? Stress fracture, stress on the joints. All of that are signs of capacity about to end in that area. If you are possibly losing your hair or your hair could be thinning, that could be a sign of a crack. Okay, ladies, listen to me. That if you are going through hair situations, right, it could be a crack. Cracks physically, we talk about physical cracks. If you go through ailments, normal ailments that are with medication or with your lifestyle or diet that usually you have under control, usually when you are stressed or you're reaching your capacity, those issues will often increase or begin to get out of control. For instance, if you have diabetes and you are in your crack stage or your crack capacity, often that situation will expand itself. Thyroids. If you have thyroids, your thyroid can be more pronounced in a stress situation, right? Right? Bloating, stomach pains, right? Stomach issues, indigestion, headaches, migraines, all of these. And one of the things that is a subtle crack that we don't understand: sleeplessness, insomnia, having trouble sleeping or sleeping excessively can be a sign of physical cracks that you're going through something. And sometimes you're going through these things, right? And your body is telling you even before sometimes you articulate it. Your body has an intuitive way about telling you something. Your body is often an antenna for you that's letting you know that you're going through something, and it's receiving the brunt of what you're going through, because our bodies often are the absorbers of our life, right? If you're having vision issues, vision blurriness, if you have high blood pressure, if your blood pressure is increasing, all of these are signs of physical cracks. And these are signs that you have to know that you have to begin to plan in a lot of cases, or remove yourself from that stress. And there's some mismanagement going on somewhere. Because hear me well, out of love for everybody. There's no nothing if there's no you. Everything that you stressing about, when you like this, ain't nothing stressful at all. When you looking up like this, ain't nothing stressful. If there's no you, there's no nothing. If there's no you, there's no job, there's no mama, there's no dad. If there's no you, there's no nothing. So you got to listen to your body. I literally changed just recently, but between the end of the last year, I've been going through some things because I got many jobs, I got many hats, and most of my jobs revolve around people. As people know, I'm in ministry. As people know, I work in a re-entry field that has people dynamic. Ministry has a people dynamic. I have my own personal businesses and companies. I have a for-profit. I have a nonprofit. I do trading. I do high risk investment things, right? I got a lot of pressure points in my life. So it got to a point where I went to the doctor because every year I go and I recommend 3 things you should do every year. You should go get a physical every year. You should go get a vision test every year. and you should go to the dentist every year. 3 things you should do. So when I went to get a coronavirus test, and my blood pressure at the time, it was like almost, the top number was almost 200. It was almost 200. So they was like, whoa, what in the world is going on with you? And so I said, well, no, I'm going through a lot of things. I was sleeping, blah, 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 blah. I'm going through all these things because I'm always, and this is for somebody, I'm on my way to do something for somebody else or coming from doing something from somebody else, right? And so in these high touch people, because as a person who does things for people, whether you're a mother, whether you are a pastor, whether you're in ministry, whether you are, in my space where we deal with people all the time, you're in spaces where you, and that's why I preach the message called Who Helps the Helper, because nobody thinks about the helper. Nobody's concerned about the helper. They only, and I don't fault people, but most people in my life, even in ministry, they are only thinking about what they want at the time, right? Whatever they can get from me, they're not necessarily thinking about me. That's not their priority. And I'm not saying that it necessarily even has to be, but I'm in that in every arena. So as a mom, you could go to work, right? And everybody in work wants your attention. Hey, and not only your attention, meaning want you to literally talk to them, want you to literally process things for them, but literally want you to problem solve for them. And then there's a problem solving aspect of your job, just generally, right? So you are dealing with people and them wanting you, because the moment I come through the elevator of my building, boom, once those doors open, Dwayne, this got to be done. What about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? Nobody's really asking, hey, how did you just sleep? How was your night? How was your weekend? Hey, I didn't know what you had to do last night. Usually nobody's doing it, right? So literally you can leave that environment, go home, and now you got a child. And so that child wants to play. That child wants to talk. That child needs to be fed. And especially the younger your child is, the more demanding that is, right? So now you go from one demanding environment to another demanding environment. And then if you do ministry, if you do something else, you jump right into another demanding environment, right? So literally, some of you on here, you are surrounded by stress, right? Then some of you are in relationships. Oh my God. And a relationship itself can be stressed, especially if you don't have a partner who can empathize, sympathize, or aid in that stress, or low key is not another stressor. Because sometimes a partner, and I'm not even talking about a bad partner, I'm talking about a partner can be apathetic to your stress, and because they have apathy towards your stress, or they have an insensitivity to your stress, they can make them a stress because of their insensitivity. And they're not trying. They're not trying. Just by doing something like waiting for you to come home to cook. I hope I'm not stepping on any toes. I hope I'm not stepping, but I am trying to a little bit, because if somebody's doing that, that lets you know that these people are not self-aware enough to understand what you're really going through. And there's so many of us, that's why mental health is such an issue, is because we're surrounded by stress, right? We pick up our phones, we're looking at other people's lives. It's stressful. You don't know. Sometimes your friend gets married, you're still single, you still don't, that becomes stress. Like, God, what about me? When am I finding love? And those things become stressors. So you can be surrounded by stress and you really not understanding the weight of what's going on around you. But you do know you're losing your hair. You do know your metabolism has been affected by your stress. Now that's why it's even harder for you to lose weight and easier for you to gain weight, because your metabolism has slowed down, because your eating habits have changed because of all the stress. I rarely take a lunch. Rarely has ever even anybody seen me eat. A lot of times, because of all the things I do, I don't eat till I get home. because you're so busy, right? And people don't even know that. And your health is being challenged, not because you're necessarily a poor steward of your body, is you just got a lot going on and you're at your capacity. And your body's letting you know, okay, girl, sir, something got to change. And when I saw that high blood pressure, I knew, okay, I am not going to be one of those public servants, one of those preachers, right? That all of a sudden you get a phone call, Wayne had a heart attack and died. Wayne had a heart attack and died. No, I was not going to do that. And some of you know, my dad, had a stroke a couple of years ago. I got a couple, high blood pressure, diabetes in my family. So I had to become, once I saw that, what I had to see is, okay, Dwayne, if there's no you, there's no nothing. If there's no you, there's no nothing. So what I did was, and this is just me, I got with a medical company called Forward. You can research them for people who are interested. And I literally had to pay money. I pay money, different than a copay. This is money out of my own personal pocket that goes along with the copays that I pay, because I wanted to, instead of being reactive about my health, I wanted to be proactive about my health. So I get diagnostics. I get hereditary scans. I get cancer screening. I get all of these advanced scans tested up the wazoo to be more proactive about my health, because your stressors, your capacity, all of those signs is letting you know there is some proactiveness you got to have at this point, because you are at capacity. And your physical traits, your physical signs are letting you know that. Some of your blood pressure is high right now because you got all of this stress. And once again, part of that comes from an inflated importance about ourselves. And I'm not saying that this even works with me. Now, let's go even deeper, because this is mentorship. Okay. When you're with a team, and here's the analogy that I give when I teach teams about it, being more aware. When my mother would come home from the supermarket, she would have bags, right? And she would take them out the car, and she would have all these bags coming up her arms, bags, everything. And I'd be in the house, right? And I'll be doing something, and let's say she'll be calling my name, Wayne, 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 Wayne. And I will open the door and see with all these bags. And the first words out of her mouth, don't you see me with all these bags? Come help. Now, I necessarily see her, but she said, don't you come see me with all these bags? Because it's so frustrating when you got all these bags and somebody sees you but won't do nothing. And meaning won't do anything, meaning being proactive about getting those bags up off you. Sometimes we are in situations when there's no proactiveness around us at the time. And that could be a phase and a stage, right? Because there's people not seeing you with all those bags. And they're not proactive enough to say, let me voluntarily take some of those bags from her. And when you really got a good team around you, the more proactive people you have around you, they will see you with bags and voluntarily take those bags. And a lot of times we lose at life, not because we don't have capacity to win. We don't have capacity to continue because we have so many bags. And so when we don't see our brother, our sister, our spouse with more bags than they can handle, and we're not proactive about getting these bags, that sometimes leads a person to quit, to not continue, to get sick, and we lose a valuable person, not to their lack of not wanting to do it or their burnout, is because they couldn't continue. And some people are at the point where they can't continue because you don't have the adequate support around you. Now, I'm letting you know That is a stage and a phase. Lord knows I've been there, even in my work situation, right? Where sometimes you don't have the adequate people around you to identify what you need. I'm letting you know that is a stage. Sometimes the most frustrating thing is people not that they can't identify what you need. Okay. They can't identify what you in the religious circles, you would be in the Garden of Gethsemane and everybody is asleep. You stress, everybody else sleep. And there can be a season in your life people sleep while you stress. Now, there's many reasons for that. Stress often comes from what you see. Stressors are things come from what you see, what you're going through, you're experiencing at the time. And the reason why you're in the position and other people are not is because you can see and they can't. And so there's always going to be a stress associated to seeing. Hope that wasn't over people's head. A lot of times while you're in the position as the leader, you're in the position as the manager, is because of you can identify things that other people can't. You can see. You can see problems. You can see problems before they happen. You can problem solve. You can conflict manage, right? You can give resolution. All of that comes from your sight. And a lot of times, even with staff or people that I deal with, they'll see it one way, and then I'll say, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? What about? And they're like, I didn't even see all of that. And that's the difference. You're in the seat that you sit because you see. And there's a difference in sight between the chair that's in authority and the chair that's taking directions. And that there's a distance in that always will exist. And so you have to understand, to a degree, there will be things that I will always go through because of the seat that I sit, that other people won't go through because of the seat that I sit. And I sit in the seat because I see. And there's an inherent difference because that's why you're the person. And that you always are going to have. That's something you can't. Well, the burden of being the leader or the burden of being the deliverer, how you want to spiritualize it or however you want to talk. Okay. That burden always exists with the leader. That's not going nowhere. Now, here's the difference between what I believe makes good ones or bad ones. And I'm not saying that I'm even in the good category as of yet. What I'm saying is what I endeavor is to properly identify who can help me. And that is a skill. Everybody cannot properly identify who can help them. That goes in a relationship. That's why you dated all the guys you dated, because you are still developing your ability to properly identify who can help you. And we all use different metrics on what we use to identify who can help us. Okay, give you an example. In a relationship, most of the time, it's attraction that often gets people, right? But how much can attraction help you? A lot of times people get with a person because of the attraction, but often will distance himself over time with the person because the attraction is not a physical help. The attraction can't cook. The attraction can't clean. The attraction can't keep a job. The attraction can't take me on vacation. The attraction can't help me problem solve. The attraction can't help me lead. And so you grow and evolve to now, instead of prioritizing that attraction at the forefront of your selection process, you may not put it in the background. That it is a factor, but I've grown to may help me understand that that really can't help me. And what helps me is not necessarily the metrics that helps you, right? Your help, you may be a very proactive person. You may be a go-getter. You may be a planner. So the person that you may need to partner up with may not be the person that does what you do, may be a person in a supportive role, because that supportive person may be a better help for you and your personality type. Or the opposite. You're not a proactive person. You're not a person that's going to make plans. You're not a person that's going to initiate. So a better help to you would be a person that does that. And you got to identify what helps you as a teammate, what helps you in a relationship, what helps you in ministry, what helps you, because what helps you is not the help that I need, because help is often a tailored suit. Because help is often the proper support to the person, because what is helpful in one situation may not be helpful in another situation, right? And we all value things differently, right? Like I got a lot going on, so a person that's with me has to be understanding to what I got going on, because part of what I'm doing is not just something I want to do. Part of it's my purpose to do. And what happens if the person that's coming on to my life is not helpful to my purpose? The same way that I'm using that as an evaluation tool in a teammate in life is the same thing I'm doing as a teammate on a job. Do you have people around you? Now there's difference. Instead of hiring just helpers, you may need to put leader in the priority of your help. And sometimes even when I talk to certain women friends that I have, or people that I'm mentoring or coaching in terms of a mate, a lot of times they'll run me a whole bunch of things down. Like I want them to be 5'9", between 5'9", 6 foot. I want them to have an athletic build. I want them to have a job. I want them to, and that's a great, those are all wonderful. But always lead out. Hey, you know what you never mentioned? A quality or something that you want? Leadership. You ever think about a man's leadership qualities? How often do you got to bail him out of trouble? What is his leadership like in wisdom? Now, and I'm saying to you, that's the same way you should look for a teammate. Okay, because at a certain point, you're going to need more than just hand help. You're going to need head help. You not just need somebody to help you do the task. You need somebody to help you think of them. And sometimes the help that you hired is the help that's hurting you, because you weren't more discriminatory in your selection process. So you hired help that you now have to help, because your process of selection was often not as comprehensive as it needed to be. Because sometimes we allow our emotions to select our help more than our head, because they both should be balanced. You should hire people that you should feel good about, and then also should be peace to your mind. Right? What happens when you hire the help that hurts? That'll preach, right? That's the sermon, right? Okay, you hired them, and they're not a help, and people could be well-meaning. Everybody's not built to help me at certain levels, because at certain levels, I don't need to be watching the way I talk. And I'm not saying that I'm talking crazy to people, or I'm talking disrespectful to people. What I'm saying is, I don't want to have to monitor the feelings of the people who are closer to me that are helping me. Because what that's going to make me do is, whenever you don't have support that is adequate, you're going to compensate. And for some of you, you do that. Your management style is that way. You compensate. So you're going to start doing more work than you should because your help is really not the adequate help that you need. It may not be as mature as you should be. And even in relationships, people do that. You hired that help. You joined yourself to that anchor. And so really you shouldn't poo-poo the anchor. Most of your conversation to your girlfriends is about the anchor. Instead of the more productive conversation is about your selection process. How did he get through? Well, how did he get through to me? How did this guy break down my guard, break down my intellect? How did he get through? That is a more productive thought process to me, because guess what? Even when he's out of your life, the same mind that selected him is going to be with you. And so the answer to some people say, why do I date the same type of guys? Because the same mind is choosing him. And until that mind changes, right? Until you start to value different things, then the choices will be the same. And the same can be the help around us. And sometimes you are not in the position to change your help readily. I've been in that position. Still am in certain cases. That I know people right now are not adequate to help me. They don't know. But I can't do nothing with them right now. I can't do nothing with them right now. And so a lot of times you're in a space where now you got to manage a new situation. And sometimes that takes time, right? And sometimes that requires you to create an inner circle within the circle. An inner circle within a circle. Because promise you, if there's somebody lagging on your team, somebody else sees it. Somebody else sees it. And so sometimes you got to create an inner circle within the circle. So you got a team. Now sometimes you got to create an inner circle within that team to be able to let them know, listen, I know we got some people that put in my way, because that's honest. That's not for you to not acknowledge that is unfair to your team and a lack of integrity to your team, right? And not meaning you got to give all the details out, because sometimes you can't readily give all the details out because you don't want to cast aspersions on your superiors or direct management. But you have to tell your team that you have identified that this is a problem, and you have to let your team know that you are working on it. Because if your team knows that there are problems that you have ignored, that now is going to fire back on your ability to lead them. Because now they're going to say, oh, she don't care. She see her coming in late. She see her doing this. She see her doing this, and she don't say nothing about it. Or they see you covering for X or Y or Z. They see it all, and you're really doing a disservice to your team members by not addressing that. So since you can't move them, right? You need to let people know, and sometimes you have to do it covert. Sometimes you have to do it in a general way, right? Sometimes you have to address a topic generally that you know may hit one person more directly, because sometimes, and I've had superiors that I've had situations where a person hired is connected to a higher up. They're their son, they're their daughter, right? Or parishioner, you know what I'm saying? And I can't readily move them, okay? So this person is not accountable. So you may want to have a team meeting and address accountability generally. Now, you know it's one particular person in mind, but you might not can address that one person. And in a lot of cases, if you cannot directly address people, when in certain cases you may not, you know you're not really the manager, the person who put that person is. And so a lot of times you got to now manage both that person and then the top person. Right. And what you got to do is then you got to get on your document game. You got to get on your documentation game, right? And then once you get your documentation game and you go through all your process, once you have those documented, now you can bring that person in and say, well, look, On this 31st, you was late. On the 36th, you was late, and you're at 36. And I want to have this first verbal conversation with you about your lateness. So now you have it documented. Now you're going through your procedures. So even if they're still in the good graces of that person, you still are having supporting information to make cases around that person to other people, other superiors, to get them out of there. Because you got to get them out of there. You got to get them out. Now, first, you hopefully have a conversation with them about pulling their weight, and that's a receptive conversation. But if they're an entitled member of your team, that's going to be a harder conversation to have. So, fine, no problem. Okay, cool. All right. I know that I want everybody to be supporting their weight. And a lot of times, what you can do, if you created the right environment, the other teammates will do your job too. They'll let people know, hey, you're not coming. Hey, that person's not showing up. And then what'll happen is people often don't want to be the odd man out, and they will assimilate or they'll go either one of two ways. They'll assimilate because they don't want to be the odd man out, or they'll become the rebel, and then they'll do stuff that will actually manage themselves out. But either way, you got to be good about thinking about your team, that everybody's pulling their weight. And that's not just a team at your job. Even in a relationship, people got to be putting their weight. Because you're going through the physical stresses of being at capacity. Then there's not only physical stressors, there are relationship cracks. Relationship cracks are you're getting distant with your mate. You're not as conversational. You're apathetic. You don't want to talk. You want to be more alone. You give off a more depressed attitude. You withdraw holistically. So you living in the same house, you often like to be in one room a lot because you don't want to engage a conversation with him. You're difficult to talk to. You're very difficult to understand. Every conversation with you is short. Every conversation with you is often you don't want to talk. And you become very withdrawn in your relationship. And those can be signs of cracks. You don't want to do anything. You don't want to go anywhere. Lack of intimacy. You don't want to be intimate because you're not in the mood. All of those can be signs of cracks. You're more negative than you usually are. You don't do things the way you used to do them, or at all. You don't cook the way you used to cook. Now it's order out. Let's order out. Can't you? You know what I mean? You're quick to see flaws in everything more readily. What is being done to you is magnifying itself every day. The stuff that he always does, the stuff that she always do, which is not readily a problem, in the time of stress, in the time of capacity, it becomes more of a problem. And now, because of that, you're arguing more than you do. And the real argument is not so much coming from him, it's really because internally you're stressed and you're going through. It affects, even when you're going through stress mentally, your thoughts are more negative. You have the feeling of being more depressed. Loss of appetite. Started eating bad. More fast food. More pick up stuff and go. because you just want to eat something and get some sleep, and now contribute, because all of this, when you're stressed, it's the bad behavior compounds itself, because what you're stressed about in one area will lead to poor eating choices, poor conversation in your relationships. You'll argue, more distance, being alone more, can easily fall into depression, more depressed, more isolation. Now you're going through mental health challenges, emotional challenges, then can lead to financial issues, spending money, or don't want to spend no money at all, putting things on your credit card, buying things to make you feel better, not being disciplined, having a more carefree attitude financially, spending money on things that don't mean as much, but they just make you feel better. Or you're more scrutinizing financially. You don't want other people to be happy. You want people to join your misery, because misery is company, and everybody happy around you now reflects on you, and you have more an attitude around happy people. People ask you, what's your problem? It's shown on your face. We can see it in your eyes. If I looked at you, the first thing I would ask you is, are you all right? And then it can lead into the worst, in my humble opinion, the worst capacity strain and stress is spiritually. When you spiritually begin to check out, no Bible reading, start to pray less. And when you less connected to God, sometimes you don't have a sense of purpose. You don't have a joy. You don't have a peace. You lose perspective. You lose your positivity. And then people stop wanting to be around you. And then when people start wanting to be around you, then you blame the people because they don't want to be around you, which then becomes thoughts in your mind about who really helped you, about who really cared for you. And the reason why they're not around you is because part of them may not want to be around you is because of the energy you're exhibiting. But then that becomes a reason that you continue to withdraw. You continue to say people don't care, and you're showing your capacity. Because forget about these things that I'm talking about in terms of the manipulator manager, the mentor manager, or just the manager. Those mindsets, the first person you got to manage, we all got to manage, is us. And sometimes the issue we really have, that's the underlying issue of all of these things, is trust. Who can we trust? There's a lack of trust in our teams. There's a lack of trust in our relationships. And a lot of times we'll say, yeah, well, I trust them. But then there's some managing. See, you don't really manage. See, you give to people who you trust. You don't really manage. Like, management of something or someone shows there can be a lack of trust there. Right? Micromanage. You don't feel trusted when you get micromanaged. Giving up something is an act of trust. And maybe you're in a situation where you don't feel like there's anything you can give up right now. You feel like everything is on you. And if you're in that place watching this, I'm letting you know that you don't just need relief, you need release. That this all starts with an inner release. Before you release a task to someone else, before you release instructions, there's a release that you need to begin to have in life. That we cannot control everything. We are not going to be liked by everyone. We can control everything that happens to us. We can't control oftentimes how everybody receives things. And it is often from that place of a lack of trust where we manage, or trust where we manage. A key component of managing is trust. Trusting yourself enough in an interview to say, I need to hire a person that really can help me, even if they're different from me, even if they got a different style than me, or enough to say, I need to make some adjustments with my team because the weight is uneven. And I've done a disservice even to myself with all the weight that I've been carrying. One thing I love about a relationship with God is that he says, what I care about that I can cast on him. And we say that, and that's so cliche. Oh yeah, I cast my cares on the Lord. No, you don't. No, you don't. You take that care, you pick it right back up again. But what does that mean as we end this particular session? What does it really mean to cast your care? Well, it's a sign of trust. And when you cast your care, what does that look like? Because it is a care. I never wanted to be a preacher or a pastor because of my care. So much that I knew I couldn't control. I couldn't control if people thought I was good, thought people thought I was bad. I was worried about what they think of what I wear, who I married. And God, in the course of that, he showed me something that I'm going to share with you in this final thing. And this may seem harsh, but it helped me. Dwayne, you're going to die. That is going to happen, sir. And one day when you die, whatever ministry you have, whatever family you have, whatever things you were doing is going to be left here. So Dwayne, if all of the things that you do, the money you make will be left here, but what are you going to bring to me? I said, well, God, I'm going to bring me. I'm going to bring me to you. Dwayne, that's why I tell you to cast your care. Because I want all of them. Because eventually I'm going to have all of them, even you. And that's why he says, cast your care on me because I care about you. Because at the end of the day, all you get to leave, all you get to take with you is you. So that must all the spiritual world must care about at the end of the day. You have to realize that everything you are doing is temporary. Your job is temporary. Your relationship is temporary. And since it is temporary? Is my attitude about it and my care towards it permanent? And because my care about it is so permanent, my investment in it is inappropriate. Because you do things differently versus your knowledge of it, if it's going to be short term or long term. If when you get a office and you knew you was going to change office, you may not put a lot of stuff up in that office. You would say, no, I'm not going to put them because I'm moving, I'm changing. So I'm not going to invest in all this stuff and different things like that because I'm moving, I'm changing. Your investment mentally is different in temporary things. You're not. This job that you're on, however so stressful, is temporary. But is the care in it like it's permanent? Because I have put so much into this. And some of you, this is your last year working at this job. How would you act on your job if you knew this was the last year you working in? How do people act the last day of work? Are they so stressed about anything that would happen? I don't care. It's my last day. It's my last day. You don't see people stressed on their last day of work. Not at all. Because they have in perspective that whatever I'm doing here, I'm about to leave it. So I may handle it for the day, but here, y'all going to have to make a decision about how y'all going to do this. And sometimes we don't set things up like we're going to leave it. Everything you do should be with leaving it in mind. See, even Jesus set up his situation like he was going to leave it. He didn't have disciples for no reason. Does whatever you're in that's stressing you, maybe it's because the setup of it has so much of you involved. Your investment in this is a permanent one. Even in church, if I set this up right, think about all the churches that when the leader left, church crumbled because it wasn't set up for them to leave. The stress wasn't distributed appropriately because the person who led it had too much of themselves in it. Because if I know I'm going to leave, then now my delegating becomes more intentional. My teaching and building up people becomes more intentional. And then me not having the adequate pieces around me, I'm more sensitive to that because I'm not just doing that for me. I'm doing that for the next person that gets my spot because my spot is just a rented spot. I'm not going to be pastor Continuous Full Christian Center always. I'm not going to be pastor of it in the capacity I'm in it now. And I'm telling you, not when I'm dead, while I'm living. So now if I don't pour myself adequately in people, it's a disservice to me that if it all depends upon me, this is not a good situation that I've led. I'm not permanent to anything I'm doing. And once the Holy Spirit showed me that, it gave me a piece of that whatever I do, I'm planning to leave. Because one day I will leave. And I will leave all these cares down here because what the spirit world really cares about is me. That's why everything you're doing, and that's why the difference between the mentor manager mindset, the mentor manager knows that my management of this person is ultimately not about what they're doing. It's about who they're becoming. And I manage to that. That's why if I manage to who they're becoming, I look at mistakes very differently. I look at successes very differently. And a lot of times I could applaud a mistake and be stern on a success because I'm not managing to what they did. I'm managing to who they are. And once you understand everything is to grow you, and it's less about the task, then you look at God, maybe I'm still in something that I need to be out of because I didn't learn what I'm supposed to learn to get me out of here. And we really are in certain places and spaces because we repeat in classes. And some of you are learning the lesson of delegation. You haven't learned that lesson yet. So until you learn the lesson of delegation, you're still at the same class because you haven't learned that you will leave it. And how can I think about things very differently with that mindset now. That's why I'm teaching leadership. I'm teaching my leaders. I got my leaders reading the same books I read. The same books I read. Now they can poo-poo me. They can get upset because I'm training them to leave them. Because woe unto me as a leader that everybody needs me. You know when I'll know I'll grow, when I've grown as a leader, when instead of people calling me to ask me to pray for them, they'll call me to let me know what they prayed for. When they come to me and say, we don't even need you, Pastor. We handled it. In my mind, you managing, Wayne. Oh, Wayne, you are managing these people. Because you got to get out of you. And you're losing your hair, going through challenges, high blood pressure, because you acting like you're gonna stay instead of you're gonna leave. That helps me so much, Wayne. You're not gonna always be here. This stress with this team is not always gonna be. This stress with this is not always gonna be. And here's what I know how it's all gonna be, because I'm setting it up to leave. And the beautiful situation, how you know you really did it, is if the next person comes in and it's flawless. Oh, I didn't have to do much. Wayne set this up because you know what? I set it up for you to come. Because even Jesus needed to leave. So who are you? Jesus says, and now get religious before I go. Jesus says to his disciples that he loved for, that he cared, that he helped feed, clothed, supported. He said, it's needful for you that I go. I gotta go. If I stay here, he said, it's needful for you that I go, because if I don't go, the Holy Spirit can't come. What can't come? Because you can't go. And that is a profound thing on so many levels. That's what I want to leave you with, to think about. What can't come? Because you can't go. And that is on so many levels. You can't leave certain thinking. You can't leave doing it yourself. You can't leave certain value systems. You can't leave certain financial ways of doing things. You can't leave something so something can't come. So it's really time to cast that care, in the sense of letting you know everything's temporary. You own nothing. You are a steward of that job. So let me run this job like I'm gonna leave. And if you was gonna leave tomorrow, think about it. If I would leave tomorrow, what would I do? What would I share with my staff? What would I tell my staff? Well, if people would act like that in their lives, like they would know they was gonna die, then we would know where mama insurance policy was. We would know where mama insurance policy was. We would know even before that if mommy had enough money for this or this and that. And that's why even when the most tenuous times is when people leave this earth, because we didn't prepare to leave. You will keep no power. You will keep no relationship. Everything is coming to go. So now have that in your mind. that if this was my last day at this job, would I really empower Susie? But I'm not empowering her now because there's some level of trust that I have. But if I was going out, I would give her that. The disciples were not in the best of shape when Jesus left them. They were in terrible shape. Peter denied him. Thomas doubting him. All the disciples were in hiding. And now is the time he says, okay, it's time for me to leave. Maybe Jesus's version of ready is different than ours. My God. That's what I learned. Maybe Jesus' version of ready, because they didn't look like they was ready to meet, but apparently they were ready for Jesus. And maybe your idea of ready in your staff has to change. Cast your care on Jesus by understanding you're coming to go. You'll treat people better. You treat people more significantly. You'll value people. You'll promote people. You'll give people the adequate part of the work they deserve because they need to learn that work because they need to do this if I'm gone. Because if I go away for the vacation and they all calling me, I still haven't gotten them to that level. You need to prepare to go. And I prophesied to somebody tonight, this is the last year at this job. So prepare to go. Prepare to go. I love y'all with the love of the Lord. If this blessed you, share this with somebody. 7:30 every night on Thursdays. This is the stuff. This is not all churchy stuff. I know sometimes I get churchy, but there's something in all of us that can't come until something leaves. Both will not occupy the same space. Something has to go before something can come. The man that's not for you, you have to let him go so the man that's for you can come. God bless you. God bless you, Gwen. If you need to reach out to me offline, you can. Praise the Lord. I love you all with the love of the Lord. See y'all next Thursday.